Hello and welcome to Energize Online. I hope you had a good break last week, whatever you were doing. I had a lovely time camping. The sun shone for the whole week. It was brilliant being in a tent. I wonder what I've got in my basket today. Baskets feature in our story today, but I don't think it looked like this one. Can you see what I have? There's someone hiding in my basket. I think it might be Paul. Let's have a listen to the story and see what happens to Paul this week. I'm reading the story from the Diary of a Disciple from Scripture Union. After he had a large dinner, Saul felt much better. He stayed in Damascus for a few days and hung out with Jesus' followers there. He went with them to the town meeting place and told everyone he could find that Jesus was God's son. The crowd stared at Saul with a very confused face. Isn't that the cruel man who kills Jesus' people? I thought he was here to get rid of the people who follow Jesus. What's happened to him? He kept on telling everyone he met that Jesus was the one who had been sent to save them. And he even convinced a lot of Jewish people who said they'd never believe. When the Jewish leaders realised that people were actually listening to Saul and that he hadn't just had a crazy moment where he was pretending to follow Jesus, they weren't happy with what he was doing. They weren't happy at all. They decided they'd have to kill him. If they watched the city gates all day and all night, he'd have to come out at some point, so they'd catch him then. But Saul found out. So his mates hid him in a great basket and attached it to a very long rope. Then they waited until it was dark and lowered down their Saul in a basket over the city walls, where no one was watching. Saul went down to Jerusalem because he'd heard there were a few Jesus followers there and he thought he might be able to join them. But when people saw him, they freaked out and ran away, though he kept trying to explain. But Barnabas listened. He took Saul to meet the 11 plus the extra one and told them everything. The bright light, hearing Jesus' voice, telling everyone in Damascus about what God had done. When they heard his story, the apostles decided Saul was telling the truth, and so he joined in with what they were doing in Jerusalem. He even went to argue with the Greek Jews because he wanted them to understand that Jesus was the only one who could save them. Wow. So, there was no doubt in Paul's mind. I probably should remind you that Paul has two names, a bit like Peter, he had two names too. So when we started the story, he was called Saul, but now he's called Paul. And sometimes stories use either name, so it gets a bit confusing. But for now, I'm going to call him Paul. So Paul knew who Jesus was. And instead of getting to Damascus and arresting the followers of Jesus, he'd become one of them. He'd become a follower of Jesus. And he was telling everybody about him. He had met Jesus and it had changed his life. The Jewish leaders, the people he'd been working for, well, they were not impressed. People were listening to Paul and they were becoming followers of Jesus. So that's when they hatched their plan. They had to kill him, but first they had to find him. Now, the city was surrounded by a very tall wall. So there was only one way in and out, and that was through the gate. And so their plan was that if they waited at the gate, sooner or later, he was going to have to come out. But Paul discovered their plan. And so his friends and him got together and decided to come up with this daring plan of lowering him down this tall wall onto the outside of the city in a basket. I think it would have to be a bit bigger than my little basket here. And so that's what they did. They waited till dark, and then they hid him in a basket, and they lowered it down the wall. And so Paul escaped from the plan to kill him. Now, if you read on in Paul's story, there's quite a few tricky moments. It didn't end there. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to look at some of those moments that Paul had and how he trusted God even when it was difficult. You see, his encounter with Jesus wasn't something he forgot. It had changed his whole life. He'd realised that all those things he'd heard about Jesus, well, they were true. He was God's son. He had risen from the dead, and he had gone back to be with his Father. Amazing. I wonder, have you learnt a lot about Jesus? But maybe you're not quite sure about being a follower of Jesus, what that means. Perhaps that's something you could talk to your grown-up about, or a friend. What does it mean to be a follower of Jesus? And if you are a follower of Jesus, what difference do you think it makes to how you live your life? It certainly made a difference to Paul and how he lived his life. So here's our think, be, do for this week. Think. Do you hold on to what you believe even when other people disagree with you? Be willing to live God's way even when it's tricky. Sometimes how we live shows people the difference Jesus can make without even needing any words. Do. Ask God to show you or someone you know who Jesus is, just like he showed Paul on that Damascus road. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you that you love us all. Sometimes it's difficult to be a follower of Jesus. Help me to see who Jesus really is, so that I can be as convinced as Paul and tell other people about you. Amen. Okay, Anastasia has a challenge for us, and it's a little bit tricky, but don't worry, there is a solution at the end. Just make sure you try it first. I'm going to hand over to Annie to introduce the challenge.
Hi, I'm Anastasia and I'll be introducing your challenge today. How many men do you think it took to lower Paul to the floor? Well, your challenge today is to get paper Paul in the basket to the floor only using 4 strings and an elastic band, but you can't touch the cup. How did you do? I'll give you the solution at the end. Bye!
Hello and welcome to Energize Online today. I will be leading your crafts and my name is Sophie. Today we're going to be making a pop-up Father's Day card and a basket. But first we'll be making the Father's Day card. To do this, the first step is you're going to need to get your brown piece of card, which should already have a fold line in the middle, and fold it carefully along that. Then open it up, flatten it out again, and get your piece of card that should already be folded, and put glue on one of the triangles. So just this bit here. Then putting the point of the triangle in line with just underneath the fold, and in the middle stick it down. This will mean that it will pop up but your card will still be able to fold. So like that, you can see. Oops. Then putting glue on the other triangle. Now make sure you only put it on the triangles, otherwise your design won't be able to pop up. Then fold it in and push it down. Now wait for that. Now you might want to put something heavy. I'm going to use scissors on top of that while it dries, as you won't be needing that yet. So now you've done that, you need to move on to making the inside, which will say to Dad or to you. To do this, get your piece of card that isn't folded and is a long shape like this, and fold it in half, then in half again. So you should have 4 lines. Or 4 parts. So fold it in half once, then I folded the other bit to that line. So there are my 4 parts, which you can now fold, going one that way, then one the other way, then one that way, which makes a little bit of an M shape or a W. So I can do 4. To get it out, one goes in that way, then it goes underneath, then on top. Now you've done that, you need to get your cards that have the words on and cut them out. If you would like to say love Dad, you could use the top ones. However, if you want to do this card to someone else, which you can do, then you could do the bottom one, which is love you. So I'm going to do the love you one, as I've already got a love Dad. So carefully cut these out, following the bold lines, as you're going to want the boxes. So make sure you don't cut out the individual letters. You'll also have a cut out heart to put onto the rectangle, so you don't need to cut a heart out of that one either. So pause the video while you do this, then come back and I'll show you the next step. So now I've got mine, you can all cut out. You can colour them in if you would like. So if you are going to do that, just pause the video here and then come back when you finish doing that. I'm not going to colour mine in, so I can stick them straight on, making sure I spell it correctly. So I want my, you're going to need your love before, so make sure you leave a gap before you start spelling your word. So here is mine. So I've got a blank one, then I've got the word you. And you can also see that now my card is all dry and done. This means I can now start doing the inside of this. So to do this, you'll notice you have some other thin coloured pieces of paper. You're going to need them, but make sure you use the right ones for the right places. So The larger square is the outside, so you don't need that yet. And the smaller square is for your heart, so you won't need that yet either. But the other three, so 2 coloured and 1 plain, are for your inside. So, you should be able to see that you have 2 rectangles. Doesn't matter what way these go on, but you're going to need 1 there and 1 there. So just stick them on, pause the video here while you do that. So make sure you stick them down well. Yeah. Now with your white card, you're going to want to write a message on it and then stick it on, or stick it on then write the message. I'm going to do the second option. So now you've done that, you're going to want to stick on your white piece of card. Now when you open it, you're going to have this one facing you as well as this one, so it doesn't really matter what side it goes on, so it really is up to you. I'm going to stick mine on the top part, just making sure it's even. There you go. So there's mine. I now need to do the front. To do this, I'm going to get my large piece of paper and just stick that on the front. And that's all you have to do for that part. So that's mine. Now before you stick this on, you're also going to want to cut out your heart. So to do this, fold it in half and cut out half of your heart. If you want, you could draw around it first. So just cut half of the heart out, making sure you get it about the right size so that it will fit. Here's mine. So I'd folded it like this and then cut it out, and now I can stick it on. Lots of glue to my inside message. Now I need to stick it on. To do this, I need to fold it up, make sure it's folded like we did before, otherwise it won't open and close. Now you've done that, you're going to want to put a little spot of glue on the top right of your purple paper and the bottom left. Then, opening up your picture, stick it on flat, like that. So open it up and stick it on flat, making sure you've only put glue on this part and this part. So before you try and close it, you just need to make sure that's fully dry, or else it won't close. Now, like we did before, if you want to lie something on top of that just to hold it in place, I suggest that that's a good idea. While I wait for that to dry, I'm going to go on to my second craft, the basket. To do this, you're going to need your 3 colours of wool. Your 3 colours of wool. But I'm just going to use these 2 to start with, and then I'll get that purple one later. So I just need to get these out, and I need to wrap them around my disc. However, the first thing I need to do is carefully fold these up, so with the white facing outwards. Make sure you do this properly, or else it may be a lot harder for you when you're trying to wrap it around and make the shape. So now I've done that, I'm going to get my greeny bluey blue colour and wrap it round. Now we're not going to go around each one, you need to go around along 2 and around and back 1. So tie it off first, then make sure you push it down. To the bottom. So now I've done that, I can show you. So you need to go along 2, so 1, 2, then back 1, like that. So then here you go along 1, 2, in there, and back. So along 1, 2, and back. Along 1, 2, and back. Along 1, 2, and back. So pause the video while you do this, then come back and I'll show you, the next part. So now that you've done that, you can see that I've done quite a lot as well. Now if you want to change colour, you can do that. You just need to tie them together, cut the original one, then tie the remaining string of that colour to the new wool, then continue. Okay, so now that I'm here, I need to go along these. Now you can see I've started to do purple along here, so it will look okay and blend in. So to do this, I need to pull it down all the way along and match up with the following one. Then go back around one of them, then back, and with the next one along. So far mine looks like this on the back and these on the side. So just continue doing this, making sure you do the corresponding one with each other. And if you've maybe done yours a bit too full, that's not a problem. You might just want to take some off in order to allow you room to do this. So now I've come back to the beginning. I'm going to cut my string, then go once around the thing I finished on again, and then tie it to itself. So I'm going to get another piece of the string, thread it through, and then tie a knot. And then because I've threaded it through itself, it should actually be okay. So I'm just going to cut it there. So this is mine, like this. Now it may look pretty finished. However, I might just finish it off by just trimming the top bit. So I'm just going to push them down, make sure they're nice and securely in place. Then only cut the top parts that are left off. You may want a guardian or parent to help you do this. If you find any knots, you can just tuck them in. So that's mine. You might want to take more of the cardboard off, but I think I'm okay with that. So you can now put some stuff in it, and oh, look at that. My card should now be all done. So you can see my card opens up to that. So all you need to do now is write your message and then give it to someone. But that's all for this week, so I hope you had a really good time, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.
Well, I hope you have fun making your cards and your baskets, and I hope you've had a go at that challenge. Have you worked out how you can do it yet? I wonder if you do it differently to how Annie does it when she and Keith finally solve the puzzle. If you want to know how to do it, keep watching now and they'll show you the solution, or at least one of the solutions. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Did you work it out? We're going to show you the solution. So first tie your strings onto opposite sides of the elastic band. Then give 2 to your friend and you take 2. Put it over the cup and then lower it to the floor.